Welcome to the Nintendo Curse, where whenever Nintendo wins a console war, a flop is around the corner. Dear God, this is gonna be Nintendo at their cockiest since the N64, isn't it? Now, we just had a Nintendo Direct, where there were good points and them charging for a tech demo. If you're here, it's probably because you've heard of all the wrong things going on with the Switch 2, and how they might be able to find a way through this, and how they might be able to salvage this mess that they're in right now. Before we get to the pricing problems of this console, understand, the Switch 2's problems were happening at least 7 months prior to this, back in fall of 2024. Yes, I'm talking about the leaks. There were so many leaks that were just going all the way through, a lot of them from Chinese sources in this case, whether it be this render of the Switch 2 that came out that no one believed at the time and it was pretty much spot on, the accessories that were leaked here, and then one guy in Reddit who posted about how he had access to the Switch 2, including its name, the model, even Mario Kart 9, or as it's called something else now, which, hell, we even saw it naked, with his motherboard of course, but in this case, the Switch 2 was never exactly the greatest light, and that's why Nintendo decided to just say, fuck it, let's just reveal it now. And so they had a very early preview they probably were never going to have in the first place until the actual Direct to say the Switch 2 exists. And so a lot of us were hyped. We wanted the Switch 2. And then the Nintendo Direct happened in April of 2025. And it was interesting to say the least. The Direct of course started out with revealing what was a bunch of new features of Nintendo catching up with the online world that the other two consoles have had for at least 2 generations prior. In this case, actually having proper online chats. They went a step further and added a camera that removes the background. I know, right? We're in the Zoom age now with this. But of course, how do you access this? By pressing the nifty new C button, a little camera button. Remember when the C button was just 4 buttons on an N64 that controlled the camera? Well, guess it's controlling the camera in a certain way. Of course, it was a great feature, but one hiccup. It's only free for the first year. And then guess what? That button is not usable unless, you pay up. Pay up with your Nintendo subscription. Yeah, that's right. What we got now is a physical online feature where a button is not even usable unless you pay for it. Yeah, this didn't sit well with people, and well, to be honest, I guess I'm not really surprised by that factor, simply for the fact that, well, you already gotta pay to even play the Switch Online, use the Switch Online. This was gonna be another one of those factors, in other words. Then we get to a nifty tech demo showing all the new things you could do with the Switch 2, being able to go around, find out all of its new features, the magnetic Joy-Cons, even being able to see how 4K looks with a Nintendo game. I know, right? Nintendo caught up in the modern age. Crazy. And this is free, right?
Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour will launch as a paid digital game on the same day as Nintendo Switch 2.
This is not even a game. We charged for a tech demo. It's like charging for just looking at Link and Ganondorf fight in Space World 2000. Well, I guess with how badly that reception went down, I guess we're gonna try to charge for less people to look at this. But that's the thing though. It's in the end a tech demo that usually should be packed in with a console. I mean, look at Sony. They pack in Astro Bot, an actual game that actually isn't too short either. I mean, for a tech demo, of course. But it shows the new features of the PS Sense. It lets you feel the controller as you press the trigger. And in fact, it's a new IP that they made right there that was really fun to play. And guess what happened? They made a whole ass game out of it that won freaking Game of the Year. To which if Sony regrets closing Japan studio after that, who knows, but that's for another time. But here we got a tech demo. Remember the Wii? Remember how it had Wii Sports packed in? 4 whole games that people just spent playing for a long time before the games they actually wanted came out? Pretty much becoming the system seller that's actually not a normal Nintendo IP. Guess whose idea was that? Reggie freaking Fils-Aimé, the Reginator, the man who kicks ass and takes names, packed that game in. And guess what? Nintendo Japan was telling him no originally, until he somehow convinced them. Probably with that laser eye thing he does. But that's the thing though, that I would say was a major reason for why the Wii sold well, and well, actually that's not even for discussion. That was the major reason why it sold so damn well. So you'd think they'd hit lightning in a bottle for a second time, right, by doing this? Well, no, they clearly didn't. And guess what? No one wants this now. To the point of guess who is trolling Nintendo for not doing this very thing? That's right, Reggie himself, by sharing a little nifty tweet about the fact that Wii Sports was packed in with the Wii by his hands alone. God, I miss the Reggie days. What, did you really expect Bowser to actually pack in a free game, quote-unquote game, into your console? Ha! But we'll talk more about Doug Bowser in a moment. Well, let's see what's next in the Nintendo Direct. Oh man, GameCube games. Finally. Oh man, like, wow, finally. I mean, I never expected them to appear on the Switch, considering, well, I still think it would chug on the Switch, no matter how you take it. But here, well, we finally got it. And Nintendo did the greatest thing ever. They showed these two games that go on a stupid price on eBay. So of course, with the GameCube support, we're getting GameCube controllers. I could say, finally, the whole set's complete. I could play Dolphin with a game, I could play a regular Switch game even with a GameCube controller. Yeah, I did not say the D word at all earlier. Granted, I already could do that considering there was the USB hub that you plug a GameCube controller in, but this is wireless. That's the great part about this. So, of course, misinformation didn't stop this, because a lot of people were thinking that, well, guess what? GameCube controllers can only be used with GameCube games, and they would be impossible to use with anything else on the Switch 2, or anything else for that matter. Well, have you seen the other controllers? They have that same disclaimer that say they can only be used for a Super Nintendo, a NES, an N64, a Genesis. And guess what? I am playing Super Castlevania 4 on my PC with a SNES controller. But later in the Direct, we got confirmation for some Switch 1 games getting an upgrade on the Switch 2. Why, of course, a small fee. But it included several major games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, even the upcoming Metroid Prime 4. Of course, much like the GameCube controller, Nintendo does not know how to write, and decided to write this in the worst possible English ever by making it sound like it's a Switch 1 game with a DLC code in there. And everyone ran with it. Someone even decided to ask Nintendo's customer service if this is actually true, and they said yes. Yeah, you know, the customer service. The guys who never make a mistake. But of course that was soon debunked, as the games will be fully on cart, already Switch 2 upgraded on a Switch 2 exclusive red cart. Yeah, meaning you will have the whole game right there, except Breath of the Wild. Remember that DLC that came with Breath of the Wild? You know, the one with that champion story pack and that floor challenge that pretty much killed up 2 weeks of my time? Yeah, that one? Well, that's not packed in. We're never getting this game fully complete, are we? Of course, these upgrades were pretty decent. The fact that you got better textures, you even had some nice features, like actually being able to find Koroks a lot easier. And even the Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4 lets you use the new Joy-Con like a mouse. But of course, what does the Switch 2 boxes look like? Well, I mean, they're red, and ugh. Really? This was the best Nintendo could do? Nintendo usually is pretty good with their boxes, I would say. I mean, I can't really complain about any of these. Maybe the Wii U one's a little weird with their light blue there. But it's been pretty solid all the way through. Like, what the hell is this? I mean, you got like such a giant red banner across the top, and you got all this writing out there. It's taking up most of the art. You know, this alone is gonna make me keep my pre-order for Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch. I mean, I'd be pretty stupid if I did cancel that. I got it actually at quite a discount back in 2017 through Best Buy. But of course, I'm only nitpicking here. There's a more serious problem on these boxes. A lot of these games are not actually a complete game. We're talking about game key cards. So remember how you got a box and it came with a downloadable code and you raged at why you even bought it physical? Well, guess what? Instead, you're getting an empty cart that has a license for the game instead. You pop it in, it starts downloading. Well, physical games truly are screwed, aren't they? Now, I'm never really a fan of this. It's still a problem in the sense that it's not just one or two games that are doing it, like maybe the last generation of gaming where Switch 1 games had every so often a few that were requiring to download the whole game on there. But in this case, it's a whole wad of these. Look how many of these are doing it. Good lord, it's like most of the third parties. Anything Square Enix and Capcom seem to be doing this. And seriously, look at this, Bravely Default. It's only 11 gigs. Square, are you seriously telling me you could not find a cheap-ass card from Nintendo to just fit this on? But of course, the heroes at CD Projekt are once again packing the whole thing on an entire Switch 2 cart, a 64GB cart in this case. And they did this with The Witcher 3 on the Switch 1 as well. So what the hell is their excuse here with these two? And several others, it seems. At the very least, it seems Nintendo is at least packing their games fully on the cart. Well, fully being a very subjective term in this case, you know, I'm looking at you, Zelda. But that's not to say GameCube carts are bad themselves. Unlike the previous ones, the good thing about these is that you don't actually have to punch in the code, just pop it in and automatically downloads. I mean, like, I absolutely hate this process. This was a horrible process. Like, this alone, maybe buy Steam games instead of buying them on Switch to play it on the go. But at the very least, you can lend it to your friend, they could use it on their Switch, they could give it back to you, and lend their own cards too. So there are benefits to it. It's just, there's way too many developers who are taking advantage of this. We're just not having complete games. And when the service goes down one day for the Switch 2, because, you know, Nintendo, yeah, these cards are pretty damn useless. So here we are, the big hoobah of the project here in this video. The price of the Switch 2. Which, of course, since Americans are the main audience here, the Switch 2 is going for $450, with a Mario Kart bundle going at $500. It's not that different from a PS5 now, is it? And that's a stronger console. That comes with a free game! Maybe two! But wait, it gets better. Japan not only gets it at slightly more of an expensive price at $484, they get their own exclusive Japan locked version at $343. I hate Nintendo, you know? I hate Nintendo. I'm done. No, okay, no, we're not done. We're not done. Okay, I mean, it kind of makes sense why they're doing that in Japan. I mean, the Japanese market has been going pretty bad for gaming in general. It's pretty much been suffering for the last long while in that there's less and less gamers in Japan, less and less consoles and games are being sold. And not just that, it's becoming a more expensive hobby in Japan, especially with the fact that their currency dropped by quite a bit not too long ago. So in order to keep gaming even remotely alive, since Nintendo was the only thing that was selling in the last while over there, well, they're definitely going to release a cheaper version, even at a cost for Nintendo. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but all it really is really a regular Switch, but their OS slightly modified to not allow anything that isn't made in Japan to be played on it. I won't be surprised if some people buy these Japanese Switches, hack it, and put a Western OS on there to be able to play any game you want, and then brick their console as soon as they go online, because of course some would do that. I mean, if you know Japanese, it's not the worst thing. You can just import a Japanese Switch and just play nothing but Japanese games, and you'd be fine. I mean, look, I mean, the Duolingo owl even troll us with this. I mean, that damn owl actually has a point for a change. I fucking hate that owl. You know how much it bothers me on your phone to keep learning Japanese when I quit it like 2 years ago? Of course, the worst part in this is that I'm Canadian. I can't really be saying that now. This is a tariff war. I gotta somehow spin this to Orange Man caused this. Yeah, let's do that today. Of course, if we do a proper conversion to the Canadian dollar, and well, some retailers have already taken this price, it comes to $630 for the base Switch 2 and $700 for the Mario Kart bundle. Hello, yeah, is this the black market? Yeah, you guys still accept kidneys? So, why is this happening? Well, I mean, the obvious report we've been hearing like instantaneously is that, well, the tariffs are causing it. And some are saying, no, it's not the tariffs. Of course it's not the tariffs. To the point of where, guess what? The Switch 2 pre-orders are delayed because Nintendo has to now reevaluate things. Ho ho ho. I thought $700 Canadian was bad. I'm ready for $1,000. Oh my god. Or in this case, for you Americans, it's probably maybe $629 now. Yeah, gaming's dead. Gaming's freaking dead. And that manufacturing costs are going to go up because a lot of this is going to be made in Vietnam that was expected to be hit by the tariffs. And it did. It got hit by tariffs. A lot more than it was anticipated. Whether the tariffs are actually the real reason or it's just Nintendo being greedy as hell, which, well, their cockiness may be actually attributing to this for how much their Switch became the best-selling console of all times. Minus, you know, unless Sony ends up finding another 10 million PS2s that they've sold. There is a bigger problem. A much bigger problem. And it's actually the games. You could buy a Switch 2 and be okay with it. Great. How about the games? Well, they're jumping up quite a bit in price. So we got the new Mario Kart. Coming in $80 USD. And oh god, that's quite a jump for a game, my god. $20 jump all of a sudden, and no one has done that in the industry yet. In fact, the prices are kind of all over the place. Like we got Bravely Default here for 40 bucks. We got some Switch 1 games for only 70. We've got a bunch of Switch games at 80. And we got some other Switch 2 games at 70. So, what is actually the base price? Well, here's what the King of the Koopas had to say.
Yeah, I would say that we're not really looking to establish a benchmark for pricing. We look at every game and every experience and determine what we believe is the right price point based on that experience.
To which case, apparently, it's gonna vary game to game. And that Mario Kart is actually justified at 80 bucks. You know, the kart game. Just being able to go anywhere on the map now cranks it up to that much, apparently. You know, we thought that Grand Theft Auto was gonna be the first $100 game, as they were claiming it could be. Well, I won't be surprised if the next Zelda game just suddenly gets that price mark because of its huge new open world, because, you know, they definitely won't go back to the old style. But in this economy, who the hell can even afford this? Well, a lot of people have this question. They even asked Doug Bowser this, to which case Doug Bowser commented that, "We recognize there are some people that may not be able to afford the Switch 2's price point. That's why we wanted to make the other Switch platforms available, so people still have an opportunity to come into our gaming universe, be a part of these characters in these worlds, and see value, if you will, in whatever rung of the platform they come in." I'm getting very chill vibes from back in 2010 of a certain Xbox exec saying a very similar thing.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message if you don't like it?
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device.
Of course, the Xbox One did not go well. Not at all. It was getting smashed left and right on the internet. To the point of where Sony started trolling them with their PS4 by saying gaming for all when DRM was a problem. And of course, Ken Kutaragi did the same thing with the PS3 when he said you should get a second job to afford the PS3. You know, game execs are really out of touch, aren't they? But of course, what happened with those two consoles? They suffered quite a bit. The PS3 lagged behind quite a bit for a while until they fixed themselves somewhere mid-generation and somehow edged out the Xbox 360 by the end. But they were nowhere near what they had once with their PS2 market share. While the 360 was a phenomenal hit, actually being competitive with the PS3, this time they could not even hold a single candle to the PS4's power. People had truly jumped aboard. Heck, Nintendo didn't go far with this. Remember the 3DS? The 3DS had the same problem. No one bought it at launch at its extraordinary price, which actually doesn't seem so bad anymore. And guess what Nintendo did? 6 months later, they dropped the price. So, what does this mean? Can Nintendo salvage the Switch 2? Well, yeah. The obvious answer, well, according to all the people who were watching Treehouse, was
to work out how they move. So that's where all that mouse technology is located. There's a lot of new stuff to get acquainted with here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got the that's
God, Reggie. You seriously had Nintendo to the hands of Bowser? Freaking Bowser? When you had the Reginator at one point? God. But once again, Nintendo can recover, really, by obviously doing a price drop. We gotta be realistic, though. Nintendo, it may be actually needing to make a profit here. They could take a loss, but how much of a loss would they be needing to make for this? Say they drop it from that $429 to $329. I think most consumers would be pretty okay with this. It'd be $100 per console, but in this case, it's possible Nintendo will lose some money, but their software can make up for it. In this case, the software is expensive too. That would need to at least drop, I think, to at least a 70. I know, I'm meeting halfway. I don't think Nintendo would ever go back to a full $60 price tag with their games. But if they went halfway, it probably would be more reasonable to some people at the very least. Now, of course, 60 would probably be definitely a big system seller if they did. Now, of course, will they actually do it? I mean, that's hard to say nowadays. Back then, we had both Reggie Fils-Aimé and Satoru Iwata in power, and these guys were actually people who cared. People who wanted success. People who actually thought of the everyday man, to the point of Iwata even cutting his own paycheck when the Wii U didn't do well, rather than kick out his own employees. So in this case, we don't have those people anymore. We have Doug Bowser and whatever the Japanese president's name is. I actually don't really know who the president of Japan's Nintendo CEO is now. Wow, the guy really is invisible, isn't he? And clearly, with how out of touch they've been with their PR lately, these guys are probably going to need to feel the heat a little bit, at least with their console. If it doesn't sell well, they might have the initiative to bring it down. I mean, if they're smart enough to see the bad PR that they're getting right now everywhere on the internet, especially the Treehouse that went pretty damn horribly, they'll get the message, and maybe with that pre-order delay, they'll actually set a new precedent for that, even if it is at a slight loss. Some might say, well, wouldn't Mario Kart be enough to become a big system seller despite the prices? Well, I would say no to the average consumer. Now, yes, the more hardcore gamer might just be, yes, this is a new Mario Kart with all these new fancy features to be able to go free range to all these new levels and everything. But to the average consumer, I almost feel that the new Mario Kart just looks like another Mario Kart. They own Mario Kart 8, this is another Mario Kart that kind of looks and plays the same. They won't be really looking around the fact that you can go anywhere. They might not even care about that photo mode in there, despite the fact that it's so damn nifty. They don't really have a 3D platforming Mario or a new Zelda game at launch like they have with their last previous successful consoles. The thing is with those consoles is that Breath of the Wild, for example, showed a massive new Zelda game, something that was never seen before, something huge. And that is what really sold the console well to people, because it truly looked like an evolution. It looked like a must-buy, that if you don't buy it, you truly are missing the next big step in gaming. The N64's Mario 64, that was a system seller. And yes, the N64 was selling super well because of it for a long time, until Final Fantasy VII came out on the PS1 and actually outpaced it. So that's the thing though, Mario 64 being a big 3D jump for Mario, it would look like it was a must-buy. And that's the thing though, they don't have something of that level that looks like a true evolution of gaming almost. And especially with a big IP like that. Like if they say had a Pokemon game that looked like a major step in the right direction, I know right, Game Freak and the Pokemon company actually making a Pokemon game we want in this case, that actually would, for example, sell it regardless of the price probably to me as well actually. So in this case comes the question, am I gonna buy this at launch? I usually buy Nintendo consoles at launch. There's been only a few times I've actually waited, and the last time I did that was with the Wii U. Simply because, well, you had New Super Mario Bros. At launch. That's the only thing that kind of looked interesting to me, and I didn't really care to get that right at launch, simply because it was just a 2D Mario game based on the new Mario Bros. Style that I didn't really care for. I eventually picked it up with that later on when it got like a $100 price drop, but it wasn't really one that made me go out instantly to buy it. And this time it's Mario Kart. And I know exactly what's new and great about it. I like Mario Kart quite a bit, but I'm not really edging to buy it like right away just to play it. Be like, oh boy, new Mario Kart, I have to play, I have to experience it. If say Metroid Prime 4 was actually exclusive to it, I would have done it. But of course, I have a pre-order for Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch since 2017 at a discount. I could be getting it very cheap at slightly worse graphics and playing it to the fullest extent without missing out on any major gameplay alterations. And I don't care for that mouse feature, to be quite honest. So when will I pick it up? Either when the price drop happens, if it happens, or if we get a major game that's a must-buy exclusive to the Switch 2, like the next Zelda, or the next 3D Mario game. These things would actually sell to me. Maybe the next Xenoblade. There needs to be something that's a must-buy for me to buy it at that price at that point, and I don't really see a justification yet. Of course, in the end, it looks like a great console. It has great features. It looks like a good step in the direction hardware-wise and what it offers. But with the way that they're handling the pricing, with the way they're handling their physical versus digital, with the way they're handling so much of the PR around here, it has a lot of problems that Nintendo needs to fix through before launch. And I'm hoping this delay that they're doing right now might be not just for tariff reasons, but also maybe them revaluing that they should maybe bring it down a peg, even at a cost, because I don't want this to become the next Wii U. I absolutely love Nintendo, and I hate seeing Nintendo in such a bad shape. I always hated back during the GameCube games when I got made fun of for owning a GameCube, even when everyone else had like a PS2 playing Grand Theft Auto. Granted, I picked up a PS2 later and played Final Fantasy X, and they still made fun of me for owning a GameCube. And I always wanted them to do well. And with success, I always hope that better games can be made with the profit they make, and they have made great things over the years. And I want them to survive and keep making games, because that was always my worry, that if they do too terribly, they'll close and their IPs go to some other developer who will mistreat them, the developers being mistreated, getting rarefied in this case. And so I do hope that Nintendo does actually pull this through and does more of a 3DS kind of evolution here. Or become like the Wii U, where it tanked horribly, and in this case the stocks plummeted quite horribly, meaning if it tanks again, and Nintendo's good at recovering in this case, I could buy a stupid amount of stock and get rich quick this way. And thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button and like if you like this video here. And comment below on if you're getting a Switch 2 and what you think of the Switch 2 yourself. So everyone, thank you for watching.